Welcome back, everybody, to the Soundstage. I'm your host, Kyle Dietrich, here with the Soundstage for NLFX. I am honored and humbled to have this gentleman here with me today. Everybody, I think, in the industry knows who they are. If you don't, need to crawl out and come out to the sunshine every once in a while. We have the one and only Bill Herman. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I don't know that everybody knows who I am, but I I really appreciate that. Heck, my kids will tell me on a regular basis, and not everybody
Not
knows
everyone knows who
who
you
I am.
are. Well, kids are supposed to do that. They're supposed to drag you down a little bit.
A little
Trust
bit?
me. Yeah, a little, well, I have, I
Down.
have, I have
Let them
four
know
now,
that that's a
so
little bit.
yeah.
Okay.
No, trust me, I get it. That's for sure. Well, Bill, I'm so excited to have you on here. Thanks so much for agreeing to be on. You're one of those people that, um, again, I feel is ubiquitous in the industry. But for those of you who don't know, can you give just a little bit of background on yourself, who you are, what you do?
Well, who I am? I grew up in northern Michigan, uh, a small town. When I was a kid, I was a show off, and I knew I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
I was thrilled by radio people and game show hosts. Uh, I used to play Let's Make a Deal with and The Price is Right with my kids, with my kids, with my brother and sisters as they would run down the stairs during the game. Well, we watched daytime television.
Yeah.
Uh, but I knew I was an actor. I knew I was a performer. I was a show off, and I wanted to make a living doing that. I saw other people do it, so I've been
Hmm.
chasing that ever since I was a young man. Um, I've chased it. I chased it from the small town of Minneapolis, the small town of Munising, Michigan, and Beulah, Michigan, to Minneapolis, and then out to the East Coast, and then to Detroit, and back here to Minneapolis in 1989. Um, I'd always been DJing parties as well because I met my first radio job. I was 12, and the morning guy at the radio station had a rig, and he did parties, so I chased him around like a puppy,
Yeah.
begging him to touch his gear and play the music and just hang out with it all. And when I collected, I had a huge record collection before I even had a record player. Um, and I DJ'd parties. And in '89, when I moved here, I got a couple of bar gigs. I'd worked in bars in Detroit and out on the East Coast, and I, chased after my acting and done theater. And then I got a sidetrack into the restaurant business, managing restaurants. I made a lot of money doing that. I didn't enjoy it very much. And then when I quit that and tried to start a business, I wanted to make a living as a performer. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And I always thought I had to have another job to be able to do this. And
Support your habit.
yeah, so but I figured, the habit it ought to be able to be a career.
Yeah.
So it was when I stopped looking at DJing as one thing and acting and performing as another, when I realized that brought together as a performer, I could do a lot of things as a performer using the skills I've been working on since I'm 12, as
Hmm.
well as doing parties and things like that. And the wedding business, the event business kind of found me. I was chasing theater and voiceover and acting and DJing parties, and the reputation within DJing kind of happened. And now my main income comes out of that part of my performing world, and from there, um, I just kind of built things up as I went.
Yeah. That's a really interesting story. How you kind of turned, in a way, your dream came true. It wasn't in the same path that you thought it was.
Right. Well,
Which,
who knows? You think there's a path, but
yeah,
every actor that is see, I can say I'm a professional actor. I make a living as an actor, but I'm not famous, right? I mean, famous and rich is a lottery ticket. Um, it was when I talk to people that do this and do it for a living, it's like, oh yeah, well, I do this and I do that and I do this. I take all these skills and I didn't want to work at a desk. I didn't want to work for other people. I did that. I didn't like it.
yeah,
Uh, I didn't like the fact that somebody with another business could look at my skills and the work that I was doing and just be at a whim say, I don't want to pay you anymore. So you're out of work and now you don't have a rent or car payment or anything like that. So I took control of it by saying, I'm going to before I even knew what being an independent contractor was, right? Or having my own business, I just went, I'm going to have a bunch of clients. I'm going to try to diversify myself as much as possible. And before I even knew what diversification meant, right?
Yeah.
And if I was going to be a performer, I got paid to do it, whether it was to DJ at a roller rink or to DJ at a party or to stand in front of a camera for a film or a commercial or work in radio. I said, well, I think I've paid my dues enough to be able to make a living, at least get paid to do it,
Yeah.
instead of be the guy who's just lucky to be there and you're just lucky to be in line. And there's a bunch of people waiting behind you. So you take whatever we give you and be happy with it. And if you're not making enough, then go work at the grocery store and stock shelves and or
Yeah.
mop or a broom, which is I did that for years. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
No, for sure. And so what was it just like because of the fact that you grew up kind of idolizing the radio actors and stuff like that? Is that what took you to radio? Or was it the music side that took you to radio? Or was it, hey, let's get in here and then that's a way to do the acting stuff
I,
and
I really had no, I didn't have a path. I was 12. I
yeah.
was an ED kid who was just bouncing around the house all the time and not great in school, but the things that I dug about school, I did really well in like theater
Yeah.
and literature and just generally showing off.
Yeah.
My dad, who's just kind of tired of having me underfoot, um, drove me up the hill to a radio station in Benzonia, Michigan. When I grew up in Beulah, and this is if you look for this town, it's a little tiny town on Lake Michigan side of Michigan. Anyway, in the local grocery store owner had got himself a license to have a radio station, and had just opened it. Had been open for about 6 months, and my dad knew the guy, and said, maybe my kid can come up there and maybe, he can learn something or maybe. So dad drove me up. I didn't know any of this stuff. He just drove me up this big hill where the transmitter was, because you got to get the transmitter at the highest hill.
Yep.
And this trailer on blocks, uh, and in a gravel parking lot said, go inside and see if you can get yourself a job. So little
Sure.
12-year-old kid just marched across the parking lot, up the stairs. I walked right past the secretary and into the first office I could find, and it ended up being the general manager. And I put my feet up on his desk and I said, "I'm Billy Herman. You should hire me." And
There you
for some
go.
reason, instead of kicking me out, he talked to me. And when
Yeah.
he was done, he handed me a broadcast quality a cassette player and one of the station's microphones with a flag on it that said WBNZ. And he said, "Go, okay, why don't you go out and interview your friends? And when you're done, come on back." And he gave me two 90-minute Maxell cassette tapes. Uh, I'm probably talking a language that a lot of the people just don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Cassette players and cassette tapes. Anyway, I put up
Yeah.
two 90-minute cassettes of me interviewing my buddies and my friends and my teachers and the coaches and the principal and whatever, just blabbering. I was mostly me talking, right? And he brought it back to the thing and he says, "Okay." So he took me into the production studio and he told me to transfer that to a reel-to-reel deck. And he taught me how to edit with a razor blade and grease
Oh,
pencil and
yep.
and a tape. And he said, "Take that all this audio and cut it down until I got to about 3 minutes of audio." It took forever. It took,
It,
I think, like
it
a
took
month.
it took a long time back then to do that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, mostly because I had
Well,
so much stuff, right?
right.
I
Yeah.
know what I was doing. He just threw me
Paring it down.
into the pool. He taught me how to record an intro and an outro to put it together in a little 3-minute show that I called Billy Herman's New School News and Report. And he put it on Wednesday morning with the morning radio guy, Dusty Weatherford, and they paid me $5. And he said, "So now you do this every week, I'll pay you $5." And I did.
Yeah.
And from that, I kind of got to know the morning radio DJ who had I told you he had the gig, he did
Hmm.
gigs around school and he did the church parties and anything, Dusty Weatherford pretty much had nobody else had a rig, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
had, they all were bands. So he had a rig where he played records.
Yeah.
So I chased around him and that's kind of how I started doing that. But radio I stuck with because when I graduated high school, my dad wanted me to go to college and I hated school. So the thing was there was a radio school in Detroit, Michigan, and there was a radio school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Detroit was Specs Howard, Minneapolis is Brown Institute, And when I looked at both cities from a small town kid in a town of about 2 to 3,000 people, Minneapolis didn't look as scary as Detroit. Pretty much why
Okay.
I decided Minneapolis. And it was a 9 month, $9,000 thing, which I didn't have the money for. My parents didn't have the money for, but we paid for it anyway. And that's where I fell in love with radio. I really thought radio and being a radio announcer and a radio performer was going to be where I was going to be. Uh,
Yeah.
I was around also, not only was I around during that time, but I was around for the decline of it all. So it's radio doesn't, and as a performer, doesn't treat you very well financially or emotionally.
Yeah, and it's pretty cutthroat. Um,
It's cutthroat, but it's also I don't it's not cutthroat as the fact that the management doesn't really treat you like you matter.
well, and I think that's more what I mean by cutthroat is it is especially for a long time. It was the job to have because you're on every day, you're talking about the news, and let's face it, it's how people got the news
Mhm.
because their what TV wasn't as ubiquitous. Obviously, cell phones weren't a thing. That's how you got to know everything. And so, listening on the morning drive is how everybody got their information.
Right.
It's actually a little funny. I actually too went to school for TV and radio broadcasting. Um, I've always thought that I had a really good face for radio, so
You've always felt.
that's one of the reasons that I chose to do that. Um, and it was kind of that sought after job, and it was a sought after job that if you had one of the top 10 posts in the country, you're making really good money. But everywhere else, you're barely making enough to survive because radio stations don't make a ton of money because of the fact that there's so many of them. So um, it's a it's really funny how all that kind of worked, and then you just kind of fell into the DJ part, but then your love of acting and all that kind of stuff kept going you forward. So you're you're in Minneapolis. You're doing the Brown Institute, and did you find professional work after that, or in the radio, or how'd that go?
Yeah, I mean, I the radio the broadcasting school promised to find you a job. They never found me a job, but while I was working for them, I also worked at a roller rink in St. Louis Park. That's where I met my friend Howard Wallstein with Total Entertainment and Kids Dance. He had parties that he did as well as roller rink DJ. I had no idea you could DJ anywhere but radio on
Yeah.
parties, right? So a roller rink, wow, I could go there every day. The gear's already there, the records are already there. I just show up and I do my thing. And then I found a bar job and I met Howard and I did a couple of parties with him in the Minneapolis area. And and then I did move away and I did radio, small town radio in Upper Michigan. Then I went out to the East Coast and I came back and ended up in Detroit. I didn't work radio in Detroit except for a little internship at WWWW right after Stern had left. Never even heard of the guy, but when it turned country, it turned to W4 Country. And the big deal was that Howard Stern, who was used to be the morning guy, had left, and I didn't know who the hell he was. And I just got an internship because I was like, okay, it's major market. I got to be in the station. But that didn't
Hmm.
work out. And I wasn't making enough money. And I was doing bars and gigs and parties, and that's where all my money was.
Yeah.
When I didn't want to because I hadn't really lived in a place more than about a year and a half. I was like a gypsy running around the country.
Hmm.
My parents in the time had moved to Detroit, and my sisters, and my brother were down in Detroit. And when I decided I didn't want to travel anymore, I didn't want to be a gypsy anymore. It was either make a life for myself in the Detroit area or someplace else. And Minneapolis, I liked, and so I ended up coming back here, and I've been here since 1989. And within that, the restaurant business that happened, I made a lot of money in that, and then when I got rid of that and decided to not be just a part-time DJ anymore and try to find a way to make a living is when I started to build my business. And I was lucky every single step of the way. I had a plan, but I was guessing. You know, my
Hmm.
plan was to create something that was unique, that nobody else was doing, or at least had a different approach from everybody else. And I always felt like I was lucky, and then I thought I'd figured out a system that, or rather, I thought I'd figured out something that everybody else already knew.
Okay.
Um, so, and then when I got to my first conference, and I saw some great speakers, including my friend Mark Farrell, who's a good close friend of mine then started an association in the Twin Cities, got to know all of my colleagues. Um, we did a few conferences. My friend John Young and I did some conferences in the Twin Cities. And at one point, because I was always emceeing those things, John asked me to speak one at one, and I'm like I just kind of wrote down some ideas of my point of view on everything and talked for an hour at one of those conferences, and then was looked at, as much as it went well, I had a lot of people that were like, that was interesting and all, but we don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
once again, I come at it from a perspective as an actor
Yeah.
and a director and a performer and a stage
Yeah.
performer.
You
And
come at it as performative and not nuts and bolts.
right, it's not, I mean, the tech side of it, that's important in theater. And I knew that. And
Hmm.
DJing and the music and the gear and the equipment, and the flow of things. I mean, that was the actor doesn't worry about that. The actor has to worry about that, but the actor is on stage and the rest of it kind of works behind him. And I'm doing all of the other things too, but I'm also looking at it from an actor's perspective and a director's perspective and a writer's perspective,
Hmm.
well as the tech perspective. The tech, I still, to this day, anybody who's a DJ can probably run circles around me tech wise. I buy and use equipment that I can turn on and turn and it'll work. And if it doesn't, I buy another piece of equipment. Right?
Sure. And
I
where
know
do you
what I'm
get
very
where do you, is there a
comfortable with.
place you generally get that equipment?
Pardon?
Is there a place you generally get that equipment?
Well, yeah, from you guys. I've known Ben long ago. In fact, Ben and I became friends when he was a part of the association that John Young and I and a few other people built down in the Twin Cities in 1999, 2000 ish. And Ben was a part of that. And I watched Ben build NLFX, which he called it something else at the time. But ever since I've known Ben, he's who I've gotten my stuff from. And mostly because I've known Ben as a man of care and love and integrity for not only people around him, but for anybody he does business with, whether or even just people he's around. Like
Yeah.
he's always, an integral part of what we were doing. He always sponsored everything we were doing. He was behind everything all the time, and he stood behind anything he said and anything he did for anybody. So it doesn't surprise me that over the years he's built this into the going concern nationwide that NLFX has become. And then the people that has been around him, including yourself, doesn't surprise me. The people that are attracted to him
Yeah.
because they're the same kind of people with that kind of integrity and care for the people that they serve that you just don't see anywhere else. I've worked and I've dealt with a lot of other people. I have lots of people who wanted to do business with me, and most of them are just there. I mean, you got to be a numbers person. He's a good businessman, but he doesn't. Nobody knows my name.
Yeah.
Ben knows my name. Ben knows where I live. Ben knows my kids' names, right? And
Yeah.
I've been a customer, but comparatively, I've bought very little from Ben compared to guys that have big companies and are buying tons and tons of gear. I buy a thing here and a thing there, right? I buy a controller. You guys are working on a thing for me right
Yeah.
now.
Case build. Yep.
Yeah, and thankfully I've got someone like you helping me through it because I mean, like you were there when I
Yeah.
was like, well, I want it to work and I want it to look a certain way, and I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, but if there's I need a plug there that kind of sounds like it goes out and maybe an in here and a thing that looks here. I'm describing it like this without words, and you're like, yeah, no, Bill, I got you, no problem.
Well, and I think that's another thing that we like to try to get across to people is you don't have to be the experts. That's our job. Your job is to go out and do the gigs and make sure everybody's happy, everything sounds good, and all that sort of thing. But it's our job to get you to that point. And so I thank you so much for trusting us to do that for you. Obviously for a lot of years now. But again, going forward, that hey, you know what? They're going to set me up with what I need, not what they want me to buy.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
that's the way I do business too. So those are the kind of people that I'm attracted to. So
yeah, and we greatly appreciate that. Um, so another aspect that I really kind of wanted to talk to you about is it's the experience. So When along your journey did you decide I need and want to share this with other people? I want other people to kind of see my perspective and not just the half hour seminar at a conference, which you do all the time and they're great. Don't get me wrong. But hey, you want to get down to the nitty gritty. You want to go through this whole process with me, kind of figure out what makes me tick. I want to share that with you. So what gave you the idea to, hey, let's market this and share this?
Well, again, that was kind of an accident. I didn't really want another business. Since I came back from that first conference, I was that person that people always came to and asked questions, and I was always helping. I was
Yeah.
always answering any question and being a mentor or teacher or whatever to whoever wanted me. And I volunteered all my time within the association, within anybody who wanted to know anything. And that one speech I told you about, a bunch of people didn't know what the hell I was talking about. They wanted me to maybe tell them more or teach a class, which I was trying to tell people what I was talking about. And then and I was, like one person at a time. But at the time, also, I'm taking away from my family. So it was my wife who says, if you want to continue to do this, you need to be compensated somehow, or the family needs to be compensated for the time away. Because I had my business was taking me already aside, and now I've got all this that was I was doing for free, and then all of my
Yeah.
free time was with that. So it
The
was now
juice has to be worth the squeeze.
right. So I did my best to try to build this class, which first started out as one day, and built into two. And the goal was that if I'm going to ask people to come and be a part of this, or if people want to be a part of this, and pay me the amount of money necessary for me to continue to do this, I had to have a pretty profound impact on people's lives. So through trial and error, hopefully more trial than error, um, I built this thing that's now, oh my gosh, it's almost 20 years now that I've been doing this workshop. Maybe not in its 2 day form, but and it became kind of a going concern. I didn't really, um, like I said, I didn't really want another business. I'm not the business part of it, the marketing and the numbers and all the stuff that I have to do to be able to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adequate at. Uh, Marketing has always been my Achilles heel. So thank God I've got people that say nice things about me. So I have a referral base. But
Yeah.
even that, I mean, my wedding clients, I have a referral base, but it's not like they're coming back and having me do it again, right?
Yeah. Which is a
The
good
same
thing.
thing with the workshop. I've got the workshop is designed so that you only have to take it once. Now they have guys that ask to do it again. I've got three guys that are coming back. The one here coming up in November that are doing it again. I've got a part two that I'm working on for those guys who want more and want me to talk about more things, but I've never really even thought about doing it. Um, and the fact that I'm quite sure many people who are watching this right now, they're like, who the hell is this guy? And what the hell is this workshop? Because I do a kind of a poor job of marketing. I really need to find a marketing guy who can help put
Sure.
the name and the word out there because I've been doing this a really long time. I like doing it. I didn't expect ever for a guy who hated school,
Yeah.
being a teacher.
Put a curriculum together. Yeah.
Yeah. And a curriculum, I don't even know if I could call it a curriculum.
But
It's 2 days and it's designed to give you a perspective on what you're on the business that you believe you know, which of course you do, because if you're coming to take my class, more than likely you're already making money. You
mhm.
do it. So you want to see it from a different perspective. And most guys, DJing, the perspective, sorry about that. The perspective is, that everything is here, it's defined. It's well defined that a DJ is this, it has this kind of gear, he does this, he says that, he does this kind of party. That's the way you advertise. I mean, it's all very, very, there's definitions for it.
Yeah.
Once you figure that out, you either grow by doing more things or not. There's the you find the definition, you figure the definition out, and where else can you go? Well, the definition really has very little to do with the way I look at things.
Hmm.
My definition doesn't have walls to it, doesn't have definitive one thing or another. And it's the marketing side of it even is I look at it a very different way. Doesn't say that my way is good or better. It's just that it's completely different. So
Yeah.
what people get out of this is that even if they've got it really figured out, well, figured out means I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
After spending time with me, you can realize that there's all kinds of places you can go. You just haven't thought about it. You can go this way, that way, anywhere you want. You don't have to. But if you're really looking for new ways to look at what you do to really learn and grow and evolve as a performer and as a service provider of what we do, then you need to see it from a different perspective. And every time I've ever had any kind of evolution as a performer or a writer, a director, a DJ, a radio person, someone showed me what I thought I already knew, which, well, not a thought, what I already knew, and said, okay, so now look at it from the mountaintop. Oh, look at it from the basement. Well, look at it from over here on the way over on the left and around on the top of this tree.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm seeing what you're doing, and this is what I how I see what we do. And I'd like, oh wow, there's another direction. So there's no walls. There's not a definition. The definition, when it comes to live performance, there's rules that make a live performance powerful and where you can create a shared experience for people. There's our rules that if followed, you can have a more positive and more impactful event for a shared experience for people around you. But when it comes to growing as a performer, I don't know that there's rules. There's this one works for you because you didn't fail at it. Everything
Yeah.
I learned by uh, falling off the tree, right? Or being pushed into the deep end of the lake and being forced to figure out how to push water aside and get back to the dock. Um, I've got all this that I've been able to do. My way or the highway? No. If you're sitting
Yeah.
in my class, you're already successful. So, okay, so now what do you want? You want to see something else from another perspective to decide whether or not that's a direction you would like to try to go.
Yeah. And I think that's a really healthy way to think about it. I mean, I know it's an old saying, but I find it extremely true. Is that if you ever think that you're the smartest person in the room, you are 1000% in the wrong room. Because if you're not, it doesn't matter how successful you are. Like you said, there's somebody who is as successful as you, but they took a 180-degree, 100 completely different path. And if you guys talk to each other and collaborate and share ideas and, you know, talk through the way that you thought about it so that they can think about the way that they thought of it, well, you suddenly become a little bit better rounded person, performer, anything like that. So I think that's a really great way to think about it. But my follow-up question that is would that be is there's so many people who are very successful, not necessarily in the DJ industry, but in any industry, but they don't want to give that, you know, free advice. They don't want to talk to somebody about it because so many people come across in business, especially, and DJing, if they're in a large saturated market, things like that, they think of it as a zero sum game. They think, well, if you got the gig, that means I didn't. That means that you took money out of my pocket, which means that I don't have that. And instead of from the get go being like, oh, okay, you like this thing. All right, well, if you want me to talk about it, you're going to pay me money for it. What gave you the drive to talk to more people about it and then eventually start charging for it? You know,
Well,
what was it
it
inside
was
you
the
that
realization
decided to
it wasn't
share?
it was the realization that it wasn't a no sum game, right? There's not like you can come and see me do a gig and you can write down a bunch of notes and you can write down everything I said and the order of things I played, and then you go out and try to do what I did and you're going to fail. Mostly because it's really difficult to be an impersonator and have anybody look. I mean, there's very few great impersonators, and even those great impersonators are saying, I am not the real thing. I'm a copy of that. I'm an
Yeah.
impersonator, right? So when you try to do that, you're not successful. So what I wanted to do, what I knew I could do was to share what I knew, because that's how, I mean, I learned by watching other people. I mean, the guy who taught me how to DJ was Dusty Weatherford. Trust me, I talk about it in my workshop. I've told this story a million times, but he didn't teach me any good things.
Yeah.
There's nothing about what he was doing that was
Yeah.
professional in any way, shape, or
He
form.
taught me how to set up gear. Yeah.
Yeah, well, even then,
ish.
He did it unprofessionally because he didn't do it before people got there. He knew that it took him 15 minutes to set up. So 15 minutes before he started, even if it's through dinner or cocktails, he was dragging cables through, sweating on people's food, setting up. So he didn't have to start any sooner than he had to. He never dressed in anything more than a pair of blue jeans or blue jean shorts, tennis shoes, and a radio station t-shirt. He smelled like weed all the time. Okay. He played what he wanted and was irritated by even brides and grooms asking for requests. He taught me that these are the things you did as a DJ, period. That's DJ. And I did. I copied that. I got really good at doing the Dusty Weatherford show. Okay. And even, had a difficult time saying I'm Bill because I was literally saying what he said, playing what he'd said, played, talking up the ramps exactly the way he did it, and ignoring people, drinking on the job, eating on the job, hitting on girls, everything that he
Yeah.
told me this is what a DJ was. It wasn't, it wasn't until I started. I mean, I even talked to other DJs that I'd met along the way, and they talked to me about what they did, and it's like it became really clear that it sounded like that guy trained those guys too. It's like we were all doing exactly the same thing. It became boring. That's why I started to do bars because bars, I could kind of improvise,
Yeah.
and, and have a little bit of fun. And the roller rink, I could improvise and have a little bit of fun. And but parties were like, this is what a party was. This is a wedding. This is the party. Blah, blah, there's a format. This is a blah, 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 blah. That came boring. That was a
This is the
show.
cadence. This is what you follow. This is
I
how it
was, I
goes.
was, look, I was doing the part of a DJ, a wedding DJ. And I was successful. I wasn't making a lot of money. Depends on how you define success, right? I
Right.
mean, I had three other jobs where I was pushing a broom, or I was trying to get a job at a radio station, or working at a grocery store, stocking shelves, or whatever thing I could do to make my rent,
Hmm.
so I could do this for $200, $500, $400, because that's what I wanted, because this is what I really wanted to do. Um, but I also knew that if I was going to do this for a living and not need the other jobs, I had to figure out how to do it and not be the same as the other guys. Because if I'm doing the same show as everybody else, then of course they're all going to charge exactly the same thing. And so we're no different than this box, right?
Hmm.
So why would anybody charge anything more or less except I'm a better box, right? As opposed to something completely different. Completely different made a lot of money. Completely different could to charge fees that didn't look like it was possible.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to redefine what I was going to provide from a perspective that wasn't about how cool I could be or how hot I was or how many chicks I could meet, because chicks and beer was really the biggest reason that it was such a great job, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but to be a service to the people that were hiring me, looking at from their perspective for the things they wanted and they needed, and not anything to do with anything that I wanted and I needed, which is a weird perspective when you get into a job to feed your ego, that's why I did it. Um, that's when I started to see something else, right? So sharing that with other people, it was kind of like, it sounded like most of the time when I'm in front of somebody talking about it, it was they looked at me like I was talking Chinese.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, but what do you play and when do you play it? I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I mean, you want to know? The last week I played this and I said that, but I don't do that every single time. What do you mean you don't do that every single time?
Yeah.
How are you so sick? How are you getting so many gigs? I honestly, at the time, I wasn't even sure, because most of the guys that were asking me questions, I thought were better than me. In fact, most of the people that I do talk to, I I think that they are way better at this than I am. I've met way better DJs, mixers. Back in the day of vinyl, I'm talking about how old I am now, but back in the day of vinyl, I mean, I was a good mixer. Really, I could use four turntables at a time. I could do a 4-song mashup at any given moment. I could pop, I could scratch. I learned from guys in New York City, guys that told me that they had been trained by Grandmaster Flash, whether that's true or not. But I
Sounds
learned
good
a lot of
though.
really cool things that doesn't really help me now, right?
Yeah.
And then as I do weddings, I'm finding out that a lot of my wedding clients, they're not that impressed when I do a cool mix. I'll do it and I'll look up looking for those people that are looking at me going, nice. Nobody ever looks back at me like even my assistant goes, yeah. You did a mix? Okay. So I know
Sweet.
there's way better guys than me and all this stuff. So what am I really selling was me. So when I spent time with guys telling them, that's what you got to bring to the table. You got to bring who you are for your clients, who you are for yourself, your values as a person, your values as a business, and work on the expertise around the service you're providing, whether it be mixing, whether it be speaking, whether it be whatever it is, so you can show up as a more professional, more polished version of who you already are with a perspective of service towards someone else as opposed to yourself. Write that out of the paragraph. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's different than a lot of guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think it takes a special person like yourself to come at it that way. Because I've always kind of been under the same thought process that you have is, hey, it's not a zero sum game. You know what? If I talk to people who are really successful and I implement some of the stuff that they do, but put my spin on it, because again, like you said, I can't be anybody but Kyle. You can't be anybody but Bill. If you try to be Kyle, it's not going to work for you. If I try to be Bill, it sure as hell isn't going to work for me. So being myself, but employing some of those techniques, I used to work with a guy who was in my local market, insanely successful. He probably had, I'm talking about in the area, so he had 6 or 7 different DJs working for him. I never did, but sometimes if they were too busy, I would subcontract stuff from him, all that kind of stuff. Just insanely busy. But his thought at all times was if he didn't have the gig and somebody else did, somebody took money out of his pocket. And was so petty to the point that if there was a person selling DJ equipment within a 150 or 200-mile radius of where he lived, he'd go and buy it. So that somebody didn't buy it and get the idea to start a DJ company. And had like built a warehouse to store it all. He went out like when the big Bluetooth speakers with the like LED lights and the woofer and all that,
Yeah.
they were a really big thing, like Black Friday.
Yeah.
He went to the closest city that he could find and he went to every store and bought them out because he was afraid that somebody would get those, decide, hey, I want to try to DJ. I'm going to go do it. Like I'm talking, bought 120 of them.
But see, that's not an uncommon perspective, and certainly not back then. But I wish it was not now either. And I try to I delude myself as to thinking that it isn't now either. But I just know more people that don't think that way.
Yeah, and I do think that it's
Hey,
getting better and all that sort of thing. And I
because
don't mean to
people like
talk
that are
super.
looking at this from a perspective of a commodity. Okay. And look, there's a reason why 99.9% of human beings, when you say, what is a DJ? They describe what I described to you as Dusty Weatherford. They're all the same exact thing. They might say it's a little more professional. Maybe he dresses a little nicer, but they all have the same exact definition because they've pretty much seen that guy. Most people haven't seen what I do or you do. Most people have seen the other guy, which is this. And in a big company, if you don't commoditize, it's a much different, much more difficult business because if you create DJ company with DJs that are like a commodity, then you can say we all need to be exactly this. So
Mhm.
there's a box, and you cannot now, as a big box company, usually you cannot promote your company to be any better than the worst DJ you have. Because you promote the best guy, then the worst guy goes out, and now your reputation is being messed with, right? So you
Yeah.
have to say, and we all play this, and we all do that, and this is the format. This is what you say. We all have this exact gear, and we're this, and we say the exact thing when we introduce ourselves, and ba 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 ba. It's a commodity. That if I'm selling oranges, I want to corner the market of oranges, right? And they're all oranges or oranges or oranges. An
Hmm.
orange can make me feel better one way or the other, depending on the orange, except for maybe it's made a little better, but I don't know that. I don't know. An orange is an orange to the consumer, and a
Yeah.
DJ to the consumer. So even the way I look at it, honestly, when I deal with clients, they're not really sitting across from me saying he's really, really different until they have a chance to speak to me anyway. They
Hmm.
already still have a definition of that one guy. And that is a correct definition. As much as every DJ that hears me say this gets mad at me, but the perspective of the client, the definition that they have created over the years is the definition. That's correct in their eyes. And until you show them that you're something other than that, then there's no way in the world they would ever pay more than 500 to about $1,200 for
Yeah.
pretty much that. Because I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Right. Now I know that from that company, there's all kinds of levels of personal service and personality, but that's not the way it's sold. And when you work for a company like that, and then you go start your own, then you do the same thing because that's how you saw them do it,
Yeah.
right?
It's what you know.
This perspective that we're talking about, yours and mine, it's a rare one because he is successful. Okay. You
Extremely.
might not like the way he did it. You might not like the fact that he tried to put everybody out of business, buy a bunch of gear. That's okay. But he was successful when it came to the numbers. He believed that it's not that all the amount of gigs are finite.
Yeah.
I don't, it isn't. It isn't
No.
finite.
And the
And
other
if
thing
it
that
was,
that I
then
do want to
I
say,
wouldn't have a business.
yeah, and the thing I do want to say about him is one, he's actually a super nice guy. He does a lot of stuff for like if there's somebody in the area who's sick or not well, donates time he does a lot of really good things.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
I don't want to like say, oh no, he's just this bad thing. But I could never
I
get
didn't
past
think
the
you would.
idea. Yeah, I just could never get past the idea of, wow, you're so worried about that you're just literally buying warehouses full of equipment
Well,
just
it
so
is
somebody
a
else doesn't have it.
thing when when you believe that there's so much jobs out there.
Hmm.
I mean, I look, I had a company tell a client that I was dead to be able to book themselves a $350 job when I was charging 2 grand. It's a long story, okay? But the way they got the gig was they went looking for me. They didn't have a telephone number. They ended up calling that company and said, "Does that guy work for you?" And he went, "Yeah, of course he does." They said, "Well, send us a contract. We want that guy." And so he did. And 2 weeks before, they said, "He can't do your thing anymore." And then when the client pushed and pushed and pushed, 2 days before the event, they finally said, "Look, we really can't go into why he can't do it except to tell you that he died." I found out about it because somebody knew my wife, called my wife up and with condolences. Oh my gosh, I heard your husband's and about the death and it really sad. She says she put the lady on hold, but let me put her on hold. Called me at home. Hey, yeah, what's up? She goes, nothing. Just wanted to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Like,
Do something she didn't know. Yeah.
this guy billed that client $350. That's how far they went to get to be able to get a gig from me that I was charging 4 times as much for.
Hmm.
Right? They didn't have a chance to talk to me because they just took me out of the because that's and I don't understand. I really other than the fact that this person thought like that person. It's like there's a gig. If the gig goes away, then we're not going to have a chance in another one. We're not going to book it if we don't take it from that guy.
Yeah.
Which is,
I've
yeah,
heard the old adage, put your competition in the ground, but that's a little far. Telling them that she actually died. Um, no, but I think you're right. It's getting better, which I like. I think a lot of people going to these different conferences, like, Wedding MBA that's coming up. I don't know, are you doing the non-conference in Sioux Falls?
yes, I am.
Yeah, as I say, I'll be there with you then too. From Pinnacle Productions, Chris Hens are putting it on. If you haven't had a chance to sign up for it, go do. It's an
Really?
awesome thing. Chris is fantastic. Going to be a good show. But I think more and more people who go to these sort of things and meet people like yourself and even Chris Hintz, who is, insanely successful, but 1000% doesn't believe that anybody else could do the exact same thing he's doing.
Right. Because they
And
can.
is more than willing to sit and talk to you about, well, this is why I think you're not doing it. This is what this is what I would change. I've learned a ton of stuff from him
But
and
he's
just,
also, he'll only do that for you if you ask. I
oh
mean, that's
yeah,
one of the things I hate is people giving unsolicited advice. That's one of the things I don't like about Facebook. It's like,
yeah,
let me tell you how much you suck.
yeah,
Doesn't help anybody, right?
no. Absolutely not. Does not help anybody at all. And
Right.
it's it's almost having that opposite effect. You're not helping somebody, you're hurting them because you're
Where you
you're taking them
creating
out of their
what?
space, and yeah, you're not letting them grow and be creative and do their thing because the next person might figure out another way to take the Bill Herman method and take it to that next level. Um, so I think that's
And then again, the Bill, I hesitate to call what I do a method. It's not the Bill Herman method. It's
yeah,
just my perspective of doing things
sure.
when it comes to the rules of live performance. They don't, it's just something that I've learned because I've been on stage and the actor's job is like 1/36th of what's happening. What he says, how he holds a microphone is a small piece of it. The rest of it, if you don't understand how you're being seen, how you're being staged, that you can control that staging, that you can control the storytelling that you're giving, not necessarily what you're saying out of your mouth for the story, but there's a story happening, and how you move through the room and how you stage yourself enhances that story, that everyone's seeing things as a story, that you understand how transition works to your benefit. They understand the fact that if you're holding the microphone, you are in complete control of how people even feel about what you're going to say before you
Yep.
even say it. So that's not a method of mine. That's something that I've learned for years. That's been around since the days of the theater world of the Greek philosophers. So um, it is. These are things that are finite when it comes to how to create a shared experience for a room of two people or a room of 2,000 people where they all come together on one shared experience of a cheer or a tear or a laughter or whatever. And we as DJs for years have like, okay, I'll play this song and hopefully a good percentage of people will go, oh, all together. That's a shared experience for that small percentage of people. They went, oh, I love that song, right? As opposed to knowing for a fact that you do something or say something so everyone goes, ah, together. That is knowing you can create that experience as opposed to hoping it'll happen. We get done
Hmm.
with it, we go, oh my God, that one moment when the thing happened and everyone was so keyed in and the bride cried and the father laughed and everyone just, if that could happen at every one of my gigs, I'd never, ever, ever not be busy. Okay. I used to say that until I realized that I don't have to hopefully make that happen. It's like, it wasn't a lottery ticket that happened. There's a
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I think that's again a great perspective to have that I think a lot of people don't. So is it those shared experiences? Is that what keeps bringing you back year after year? You've been doing this for a long time, and I don't see you slowing down anytime soon. The way that you speak about the subject, the way that you want to get these things out, obviously, time away from your family and your wife and all that sort of thing, that's all got to be factored into it too. But what is it that just keeps bringing you back all the time?
It's these people, um, the people who I'm lucky enough to work with, whether it be my clients at a wedding or a corporate event, or those people that come and take my workshop, or just come in and seek out my advice. They the to, I one of the values that I have when it comes to the way that I am around other human beings, the people I care about, or just people in general, is with my business or my life. I like it when I'm touched and I'm inspired and I'm moved by what is around me. That it means a lot to me. It changes me as a human being, and as a business person, as a performer, as an artist, all those things. Those three things mean a lot to me. So my goal is to be a person that can touch, inspire, and move those people as well. And when I see that in people's eyes, when I can see a transformation happening, because I've done that for a person, that means a great deal to me, and it does the thing that keeps me moving forward. Um, I can't see myself quitting as a. I mean, I can see myself. I can get to a point, see for a point where people don't know who I am, or they don't see me as relevant, or whatever. I don't. If I was better at better marketing, that would probably I'd probably last a little longer. I got brides that'll look at me and I know that in their eyes they're going, man, I hear you're a really good DJ, but you kind of look like my dad. I can see it in your face, right? So I worry about that. But then at the same time, what I look like, it as much as it matters, I think it matters more how I care. And if I don't care, I don't want to do it. I was really good in the restaurant business. I was when I quit, I was making over $250,000 a year. I left a job that you should not leave because I did not care at all. I didn't like it. It made me feel bad about myself. Didn't put me any closer to being what I wanted and who I was. I was creating stages in nightclubs for people. The last people I did it for were the Gatlin brothers. I created a stage for other people, and I made money in food and liquor and door charges and tickets. And I know how to do that. I mean, I can be as successful money wise in the DJ business as all the biggest companies. I just I don't want to do that. That part of it is I'm not good at it. I don't like doing it. I don't feel good about myself. But at the end of the day, when I teach, when I perform, when I create an event for someone else, when I create a feeling for a couple of people out of nothing to be able to give them something that day that they feel like as included in as I am, that moves me. That makes me excited and makes me feel good about who I am. Because that it is who I am. I
Yeah.
am. That's why it's like, what do you do for a living? Well, how much time do you have? Right. I'm a performer. Right. I've done voiceover. I still do voiceover. I've done acting on the stage, in film, in commercials. Nothing you would have ever seen. Don't ask, because I'll bring it up and you're going, "Hey, nobody." It was paid work. That's all.
Yeah.
Most of my reputation is in the wedding business, but I'm not famous. If I was famous, I wouldn't have to. Right? There's nobody out there saying, if you're getting a wedding, you got to talk to Bill Hermann. No, I people find me accidentally. They go looking for a DJ and they find me. And they go, I had no idea that was something that was possible. And when they go looking for training, they think it's a certain thing, and then they find me and have no idea that what I have to offer was even available.
Yeah.
That's why I probably don't have as many customers as it's most people. I have enough to make a living, a small living. I charge a lot for my workshops, but I don't do a lot of them, so I don't make that much money. I charge a lot for my weddings, but I don't do a lot of them, so I make just enough to make a living. Uh, I don't know what I would do if I made $1 million in a year. I'm not sure what I would do if I made more than $90,000 in a year. That's after expenses,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
These after
Expenses. Yeah.
expenses, I'm somewhere about 50 grand.
You said we don't have a cheap hobby, quote unquote
No,
hobby job, the whole thing.
we don't have a lot of people that when they put you DJing is put in a box, and once you're in the box, then there's a price for that, and they've done
Hmm.
their research and they know.
Yep.
So if I'm in the box, then I'm
Yeah.
not.
Well,
I'm a new
and
trainer. Well,
yeah, and I think once a year you see the post on Facebook where it talks about how the wedding wire and the knot or whatever they come out. Oh, these are the top expenses for your wedding, and then when you see florists at number two, and then DJs are at like number eight.
well,
Um.
it's in their best interest to create a commodity out of the people who advertise with them.
Oh yeah,
Commodity business
100%.
model says you need to advertise with them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's and I don't like that part of it. And obviously as DJs, we feel like we're a great big part of the whole thing. But at the same time, if you are worth it, like yourself, myself, other people in the industry, a lot of people that I've talked to on here, you can charge that more premium price because once because I think people do hear your name and they do understand who you are and what you do. But I also think it's a really good idea, especially for new upcoming DJs, if you have something different that you're offering. Social media is a fantastic thing. Quick responses from CRMs and all that kind of thing is a great thing. But I also love the idea of getting on the phone with my clients right away, right after they contact me, because then I can, if I have them on the phone, they can hear the excitement in my voice. They can hear the difference that I can do, as opposed to I can't get emotion out through my keyboard. I can put exclamation points and I can do all that, but people just read it. But if you can hear it, I can talk to you and you can tell just from me interacting with you, I'm excited to work for you. I want to do this different thing. We can do something bigger. We can do something different. Um, I think that goes a long way too. And I think, like you said, having that different perspective of coming at it from a totally different way is just the best way to think about it. And getting as many of those perspectives as you can, you're just gonna be that much better for it in the future.
I live and die by that. it
Yeah.
is it is what it is. And I mean, even even what you said, I mean, I want to talk to everybody who thinks about hiring me too. I won't do anything over the phone or over email. I mean, I will if I have to. If if I got people that I'm doing a
Mhm.
wedding in England or Australia or Florida or Alaska, I need to talk to them, but I need to talk to them face to face. I still need to do a Zoom, right? Because I if it isn't as much as they need to hear me excited about it. I know I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
To see how I'm excited. I want to hear that that they're excited about working with me because I'm not doing an act, right? I don't have a thing that I show up with. That's another thing. That helped us to define it too. Many people think that the DJ and the band, they have an act. We have an act and it's in this box and we throw it into the room and hopefully it'll fit. But if you are creating something from the get-go with the people you're with, then you show up collaborating with them, then they see the people who hear you speak or see you present or the things you're going to do is just it matches. It's not an act. It's been designed to work out because you know these two people and you know their parents, you know their wedding party, you know the kind of people they're inviting and what they're trying to make it say, so that you show up being that. So they're not
Mhm.
even most people don't even know. I mean, at the end, later when I take the decks, they're like, "Oh, you're a DJ too?"
Yeah. You're not just the MC. Yeah.
Well, then they put you right back in the box, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
DJ too.
Start all over. Yeah.
Right.
Start building their
So
trust again.
it's a, yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of people kind of see many of the things that we even talk about in these interviews, like the fact that, we need, I like to talk to somebody beforehand as a technique to try to get a sale. And the truth of it is, I get most people I talk to say no to me. I get enough that say yes and that I say yes to. Right? But it's because I have this process to be able to find customers that I know want to work with me, not necessarily my kind of customer. Because trust me, I've worked with very odd pairings of people with different personalities and different outlooks on life and different things they want to do. But the idea of creating something out of nothing, creating something artistic and meaningful and powerful, that is not, I can't really define that. I want someone who's this age, and if they say you got to write out your perfect client. Well, I'll meet my perfect client when I meet him. I know,
Yeah.
and they meet me. They know. Until then, as long as all they can see is me through the prism of what they think a DJ is, and more than likely, I'm too expensive.
Yeah. For quote unquote typical DJ.
Yeah.
No, 100% for sure. Um, so I know you got a couple of things you got to go do yet today, so I'll get you out of here real quick. Just kind of bringing it back to the to NLFX and things like that. So you said that you've worked with Ben for a long time, and the customer service and all that kind of stuff is kind of what brings you back, and we greatly appreciate that. Um, is there something in particular that you think that where NLFX is just that much better than your big box store? Um, in the way that we handle things, in the way that we do business. I know we try to get to all these different um, conferences and things like that, and unfortunately there's a lot of different ones, and so we can't get to all of them. But what is it that kind of makes us set apart a little bit from those other ones? In your dealings, in your time.
Well, it's that personal thing, right? I mean, I know that when I talk to Ben or any of you, that you have my best interest at heart. I don't have to. I mean, if I say to you, look, I'm a moron. I don't know the first thing about how this stuff works. Somebody's there to help me, right? If I buy a wireless mic and Ben starts to talk like a physicist about how all that stuff's going to work, I can stop him and go, you remember who you're talking to, right? He goes, oh yeah, yeah. He doesn't make me feel dumb.
Yeah,
He just says, "No, I'll get you something it'll work, and all you have to do is do this. You do a scan here and do a sync there, and the mic is going to work." Oh, and when it doesn't, I call him, and if he's across the country doing something else, he'll answer the phone.
yeah,
Not just him, but all of you.
yeah,
And I'm afraid to make those calls because I don't like to be seen as dumb. Right. Same reason I have a difficult time talking sports with people. Okay. I like sports. I watch football and baseball, but don't ask me, about stats and stuff because I'm going to look like a moron because I don't care. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, go purple.
yeah,
Right. Yay, Vikings. But at the same time, I grew up in Michigan, so yay Vikings, yay Lions. So that when that happens, I
Yeah.
get somebody that's going to hate me
Yeah.
after
You had a
that.
bit of a dichotomy this last weekend.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's it. That's all I know. And when it comes
Right.
to like my speaker, I love my Evolve 50s. I have everything that EV has made. I have them all. Ask me how it works. There's a button that turn it on and you plug in the thing in and sound
Sound
comes
comes out.
right thing and the sound flows like a river through one thing and comes in and comes out of a speaker. And if it doesn't, then I make sure I plugged it in the right places, or I call somebody and say, it doesn't work. Right. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah.
But I'm not made to feel dumb. The same reason that I like the mechanic I work with, because he doesn't roll his eyes when I say, "What do you mean I have to put oil in the car?" Right? Like
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh no," he doesn't make me feel dumb. He makes me
Right.
feel valued and will take the time to help me. Now, if in fact that ever happens, I don't usually work with those people anymore. And I get that you got a lot of people who actually know what they're buying and are experts that know exactly. Somebody says to me, "What kind of speaker do you have?" I know Evolve 50 because I had to memorize it.
Sure.
Usually you have to say, "Well, it's the one with the thing," and then
It's
the like that.
it's got the piece and
And
it's got the thing.
I had to memorize that, and I don't understand when somebody, "Well, do you have the ZLX XLZ?" I don't know. It's black. It's got a black speaker, and it's and it's loud, and
It
I and
sounds
it works.
good. Yeah.
What kind of bass units? I don't usually use big bass units, but I got the big 18-inch, on wheels, EV powered. Uh, ask me how the crossover works. I don't know. I
Yeah.
I plugged it in right.
There's little gremlins in there that do something.
There's a little man in there that's making sure that if I do it
Yeah.
wrong, he'll fix it on the inside.
Fixing them
So
wires.
that is so important to me because for years I didn't ask. Right, I've thrown away equipment and bought brand new because I felt too dumb to go to somebody and say, "I'm not sure how this works." Right, or or for years have dropout issues with wireless microphones because I thought I was just too dumb, and to ask a question, somebody's going to make me feel stupid. Right, the one thing you guys don't do ever is make me feel dumb, and I'm looking for that. I expect somebody to make me feel dumb, and that's you never do that. And when I go and when I say to you, like, "Well, I'm thinking about doing this for you," and I go, "I'm not sure exactly. What do you mean the port, the quarter inch, the XLR? I'm not sure. I need it, and I'll grab a cord and I'll show it to you." You go, "Oh, that's an RCA. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I think." And at the end of it, when you send me the thing you built me, I know that if I get it and go, "Oh crap, there's a thing I'm missing," and you'll fix it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that. And I don't know that about anybody else I've ever worked with, ever.
And we greatly appreciate that. And I try to say this all the time. Obviously, a business is nothing without its customers. And the more that we can do this, and people might be tired of me saying this on here, but we're not trying to get you as a customer. We're trying to get you as a partner.
Yeah.
We want because your success means that we can have continued success with you. And if we continue to sell you the right things at the right time to work with what you need and not what we want you to buy, then you're going to keep coming back to us, like you said, for that advice and everything like that. And that's really what we're trying to do. And and we thank everybody for their continued support and sending us business and all that sort of thing. And I just can't thank you enough, Bill, for being on here. It was great talking to you. Just getting to know who you are, how your brain works, everything like that. I hope if you guys haven't yet, um, please go follow Bill on social. He does an awesome thing with Disc Jockey News, right? You put out the Minute with Bill Herman,
It's got a little show called the Creative License. You can find
Creative
it on
License. There you go.
MTV. You can also go to Entertainment Experience YouTube page or the Creative License podcast page and see it there. It's a weekly thing I've been doing, probably longer than I should have stopped a long time ago.
No, I think it's great because it's real. It's short, 3 5 minute. Hey, get in, talk to you about it. I think they're great. And I've watched them for a long time, and it's been an honor to finally get to meet you and talk with you and all this kind of stuff. I've known you from afar for a long time now, um, but it's so awesome to get to know more people like you and kind of like what you said with Ben. the best part about meeting a lot of these people that I have now doing this and the podcast and working with NLFX is the kind of people that gravitate towards Ben are kind of people like Ben. They are who they project to be. They're not, there's so many people who could be like in your position or like Ben's position, be a certain way forward facing, but then behind the scenes they're a different person. When we talked, I think it was when we were talking about your case build at um Marquee, I think it was. Yeah, and you're just like, I don't know, I have this one new controller, I need a case for it. What do you think I should do? You know, you you didn't put on a, you weren't like, oh no, I know exactly what I'm talking about and all that kind of thing. And um, but I think that that's just great, and it makes me feel so good about our industry and the way things are going that it will continue to keep going well as long as we can keep getting that good message out there and people keep following it. So
Well, and I hope you consider someday. I know we talked about it in briefly, but I hope you consider one day maybe come and be a part of my workshop.
I would love to. My new capacity here as a business development manager. Um, I'm involved in a lot of the shows, and so I got a lot of stuff going on at shows. And you generally do them before like the
It's
one in
always
Vegas
I
is
always do one every November, the week before Thanksgiving. This year it's on the 18th and 19th in November. It's Monday, Tuesday. Um, it's people usually fly in to Minneapolis or drive in or whatever. I've got a little hotel, and then we do the workshop at the Electro Voice headquarters on that
um,
Monday and
yeah,
Tuesday.
that's a really cool place.
It is. It's an amazingly cool place.
Super
If
cool.
nothing else, you get a chance to see the R&D department and the anechoic chamber.
The anechoic chamber is nuts. I got a picture of my wife and I in there. So I got that. I got a tour of that because I happened to meet a sales rep for EV. He was at a wedding I was doing. Um, and I got the white evolves the second they came out. I
Yeah,
had already liked the evolve, but I was going in the white, and so I heard that they were coming out, so I waited. And basically, as soon as they dropped, I ordered some. They had been out for like a week, and I had a set. Thank you, NLFX. Um, and he came up and he's just like, "Oh, did you got these new things? How do you like them?" I was like, "Oh, dude, they're so cool!" Like, and I started like because I'm a gear nerd. I'm the complete opposite of Bill Herman. I geek out over the, the gear stuff. And I was just talking about, I was like, oh yeah, he's just like, I actually work for Eve. Like I helped, like, he started telling me about this. I'm like, oh, that's so, super cool. And he's like, well, if you're ever up in Minneapolis, I'll give you a tour of the thing. And I happened to be going up there like 2 weeks later. I was like, well, I'm actually going up there. He's like, cool, give me a holler. We'll get together and we'll do a thing. So
it
it
is
was
a
really
very cool
cool.
place, and they're very cool people. I've been very lucky
Yeah.
that they have been a supporter of the workshop. They've been a supporter of all the things I've done for the Creative License podcast. Um, just been a supporter, not only behind me with support to let people know what we're doing. I helped to build the EV DJ brand that they had for a little while, which was awesome. Um, but financially as well. Finding those sponsors have always been hard for me as well. Again, I'm not a very good marketing person.
Hey,
Like I started doing the podcast because like, oh, I could do radio again, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, hey, we
I
can't be
can't stop.
absolutely fantastic at everything, and you're already really good at a lot of things. So
Oh, you're really, really nice.
having a deficiency in the marketing thing, that's okay. There's great people for that. So
Well,
again,
you have to give me some names because I'm not kidding. I could use some help, and I do have seats open.
okay.
So if you want to do it, 18th and 19th this year, you want to
I
come,
would love I would love to. I think we're going to be out at WNBA.
that's the week before.
Oh, it is the week before. Okay, I
Fact,
must have my
I'm thinking about going
weeks
because
backward.
the thing is, I don't know how long I want to be gone, but I'm going to be doing a consensus thing the first week in November. The
Hmm.
next week is
Oh yeah, it's WNBA.
WNBA. Week
Hmm.
after that is my workshop. And then the
Okay,
week after that is Thanksgiving.
yeah,
So
I
it's a
might have to think about it.
November is very busy for me every
Yeah.
year.
Oh, it's kind of crazy. It's
Yeah. But
kind
if
of crazy.
anybody's interested, I mean,
Absolutely.
let Kyle know or reach out to me. I'm not hard to find. You could probably Google my name and get my cell phone number. That's how we, so, and I'm not kidding about that. but if and so, but there are a few seats open, and I have a special deal for anybody who watches me on one of these things or sees me at a show. I'll get a special price for you.
Awesome.
But I need to know sooner than later because I only do 16, 16 people in the class. Right now it's about half full,
Okay.
which is actually for those people who, if I get one or two more people, it's going to be a more intimate class. More people will get more personal attention, which is nice.
Yeah,
Um, and I just got back from London, England, where I did one there.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so it's
You're
completely
multinational,
available,
man.
but you don't have to take a class to find a new perspective. And if you want to talk to me for free, just like find that number, call me. I'll tell you anything you want to know because there's
Yeah.
nothing I can tell you in a 1 hour, 2 hour phone call that I could give you in the 2 days that I give you at a workshop. So
Yeah. No, that is absolutely fantastic. And again, thank you so much for everything you do with us. Obviously, the continued business things like that, but also just everything you do for the community at large and giving back and things like that. So, thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. Have an absolutely spooktacular uh, Halloween.
do you
And
have a costume?
I think this is scary enough, so I generally don't go too much more.
Yeah, you and
Um,
I should go out together.
yeah,
That's pretty much what I like to do too.
dual-headed monster, as it were.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure. No, I do have to dress up a little bit. I have four kids, so we generally, we got a lot of stuff to go out and do. So,
Well, the best costume I ever did was I was a nun one year.
oh, nice. Ooh, that's a
Really
pretty good
easy
one.
costume and very hilarious.
Yes.
This in a nun's habit.
It's that oh, I've never done a nun's habit. I'm generally like a Batman or a police officer, or, just something weird like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, again, have yourself a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope you guys are all doing well. Tune in next week as we have another guest on, and get to know just a little bit more about them. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tom.